to Japanese for Dogs. I'm your teacher, Kazuki Watanabe. In this video, I'll be teaching from Chapter 1 of my textbook, Japanese for Dogs. You can get it on Amazon. I've posted the link below. If you're outside of the US, you might have to search for it on Amazon. If you like this video, hit the subscribe button and give me a thumb up because it helps me. And if you have questions, please leave a comment. Chapter 1 is all about how to construct sentences only with nouns, like something is something. For those of you who aren't very sure what a noun is, generally speaking, it's a thing, place or people. I call this sentence structure A is B. For example, this is a book. This is a pen. This is a guitar, and so forth. In Japanese, A is B is translated to A wa B desu. So this is a book is translated to これは本です. This thing, book. This is a pen is translated to これはペンです. This thing, pen. This is a guitar is translated to これはギターです. Do you see the pattern? This is slightly a rough translation, but when you say in English, A is, say in Japanese, A wa. And when you say B in English, say B desu. The letter ha is read ha when it's by itself. However, when it's placed after a noun, it's read wa, and it expresses what the rest of the sentence is about. Wa after a noun is called the topic marker of the sentence. A little more detailed and direct translation is A, it is B. Or as for A, it is B. Like this, it is a book. In Japanese, generally speaking, there's no plural form. So when you say, these are books, it is translated to これは本です. It's the same as this is a book. Now you know why I used parentheses for the A in the sentences. In Japanese, this is a book is essentially this is book. Oh, one thing you have to be careful with. これ can be used only for things. For people, use こちら. Now, here's a big word in Japanese. It is it. The word it or they does not get translated. So the sentence, it is a book, is translated to 本です without using a wa. In other words, when you use the A is B sentence structure, if the word it or they goes in A, then it just becomes B. So in that case, just say B desu. Not only the words it and they, but also the words he and she often do not have good translations either. For those of you who already know the words, 彼、彼女 and 彼ら are not nearly used as often as the English words he, she, and they because they don't sound natural in daily conversation. So it's good to treat them as it and they respectively. When the letter no comes right after a noun, the following noun gets described by the previous one. Here's an example. これは本です. This is a book. Okay, let's use another noun to describe this book. How about 日本語 Japanese language. これは日本語の本です. This is a Japanese book. How about adding another word? 私 me. これは私の日本語の本です. This is my Japanese book. So you see, I'm using other nouns, but ultimately I'm describing the book. Like, this is a book. What book? A Japanese book. Whose Japanese book? My Japanese book. So you add a noun in front of the most important noun and insert no in between those nouns. How about this one? これはコーヒーです. This is coffee. これは私のコーヒーです. This is my coffee. 私のコーヒーはこれです. My coffee is this. I just flipped A and B. You can also do something like this. このコーヒーは私のです. This coffee is mine. When you use the word this as an adjective and say this something, これ changes to この and always. It's always followed by a noun. In other words, この does not work by itself. When you catch yourself or someone else say このは or このです, you'll know that is incorrect. You can even say more complex sentences just by using the ACE-B structure with a no modifier. Check this one out. 私の友達のマイクさんの IT の会社はシアトルの会社です。It means my friend Mike's IT company is from Seattle. A lot of people make these two mistakes when they compose that sentence. One, not using no between 友達 and Mike-san. In general, you can't put two nouns together back to back, so make sure that a no is being sandwiched by nouns. Two, translating from Seattle into シアトルからです. Yes, から means from, but only when there is a movement involved, like from point A to point B. In English, it'd be redundant to say company twice, but in Japanese, it is not. So say シアトルの会社です. Seattle's company. 今はコーヒーブレイクです. Now is a coffee break. The ACE-B pattern can express where things and people are. For example, 私は Austin です. It doesn't mean I'm Austin, but it means I'm in Austin. Of course, it can also mean I am Austin. If I didn't look Asian and didn't have a foreign accent, it could be more confusing. In that case, you can add a word like 今, which means now. 私は今 Austin です. I'm in Austin now. That could not mean I'm Austin now. It can be used for virtual space too. Japanese for dogs のビデオは YouTube です. Japanese for dogs videos are on YouTube. In Japanese, there are 4 tenses. Present affirmative, present negative, past affirmative, and past negative. 4. Changing the tense is easy for noun sentences. Just change the ending of the sentence. For example, これはギターです. This is a guitar, present affirmative. これはギターじゃないです. This is not a guitar, present negative. Here's another example. 友達の結婚式はメキシコです. My friend's wedding is in Mexico. 友達の結婚式はメキシコじゃないです. My friend's wedding is not in Mexico. 友達の結婚式はメキシコでした. My friend's wedding was in Mexico. 友達の結婚式はメキシコじゃなかったです. My friend's wedding was not in Mexico. You might have noticed, I didn't say 私の友達の結婚式はメキシコです. In Japanese, you don't always have to say 私の友達 to express my friend. Just saying 友達 will suffice most of the time if you're talking about your own circumstances. In my book, there's a diagram you can follow when you compose your own sentences, and it's very easy to use. I teach 7 sentence modifiers in the book. One of them is か. It makes a complete sentence a question. It's like this. これはギターですか? Is this a guitar? You see, I didn't just add か right after guitar. That would not be a complete sentence. It's just a noun. これはギターか? Would be a very unnatural sounding sentence, so don't do that. So before you add か, make sure you have a complete ACE-B sentence. Here's another one. It's よね, which means right? 友達の結婚式はメキシコでした. My friend's wedding was in Mexico. 友達の結婚式はメキシコでしたよね. Your friend's wedding was in Mexico, right? In that sentence, the translation naturally changes from my friend to your friend. Because you wouldn't be saying, my friend's wedding was in Mexico, right? Unless you'd been sleepwalking to and from Mexico. That's it for Chapter 1. There are many example sentences and practice sentences in the book. So get your copy and start learning Japanese. Also, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. And I would very much appreciate it. Thank you and see you in the next video.